Losing control
I should
over
not
the
be
East.
accused of that. This is what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that you are. I'm
That's
not
what
accusing
we
you
are
being
accused of.
No,
We
just
should
well,
not,
let me finish my
be
question.
accused of a mess in DRC. Period.
Welcome to IGIHE, and today we're counting down our picks of the top 10 comebacks of President Kagame to various journalists. We'll be looking at all the times President Paul Kagame shined across rooms to some absurd questions from the press that, well, Rwanda has rather enjoyed the comebacks of. Let's hop into it. Number 10. Prove me guilty.
Just like to point to the accusations of human rights abuses in terms of the elimination of your political opponents or the oppression of the press, and I would just like to hear your comments towards that.
In 2017, while in New York at the Council on Foreign Relations, President Kagame here finds himself answering a very familiar question about his actions against human rights on Rwandans. And well, his answer is rather satisfying.
No, I would like to hear your comments because for me, it's like, it's always difficult to accuse me of anything and then say, prove yourself innocent. I think I want to turn it to you and say, prove me guilty.
Number 9. Democracy is not defined by the West.
There's no Western leader that has been in office as long as you have.
What do I care about that?
In this CNN interview that happened a little while after Rusesabagina was brought into justice, President Kagame was asked about his time in office, to which he satisfied all Rwandans with the epic answer.
The nature of elections and democracies is that people get tired of it and they move to another person.
That is if you are telling me, that everyone has to conform to what the West tells us to do. I'm not one of those people. Democracy is not defined by the West.
Number 8. Our judges should judge them too. From the very precarious relationship between Rwanda and France allowing Rwandans in general, President Kagame a while back found himself arguing how the Western world and Europe were considerably fuming in the internal affairs of Rwanda, trying to dictate what justice is and how it should be done. It is when President Kagame responded.
For example, the case in France, a judge somewhere in rural areas of France, one of the village judges somewhere, decides that he's going to indict leaders in Rwanda. If you are doing that, and they called it universal jurisdiction that give the powers to these judges, and you said, okay, if actually your judges have powers to do that, to indict people in Rwanda or elsewhere and take them to the courts in France, if it is universal, then our judges should have the authority to actually indict your people and bring them to the courts of law.
Number 7. They think they're better than us. Despite the fact that this wasn't an interview with any media in particular, while giving out a speech at the Wild Rwanda, President Kagame brought up the topic that had been itching about the hypocrisy of Western media and donors, stating, and I quote, "It's not God-given."
They belittle people. We are not people to be belittled at all. They think they are better than everybody else. Well, it's not God-given. God created us equal. We shall never, ever be apologetic for standing up for our rights.
Number 6. Those down there should tell us. Over the years, Al Jazeera arranges sit-downs with many presidents for thought-provoking questions, and sometimes, which is the case of President Kagame, the questions are predictable. In this interview, President Kagame is asked about the relations with DRC, to which he bluntly says,
Clearly, Kinshasa has very little control and has been apparently been losing
I
control
should
over
not
the years.
be accused of that. This is what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that you are.
That's what we are accused of.
No,
We
just
should
let
not,
me finish my
be
question.
accused of a mess in DRC, period. If DRC is messed up on the hands of its own leaders and lack of institutions, it should not be transferred to Rwanda. This is what I'm talking about. By anybody.
So what is the solution then?
The
How
solution,
does this
those who are there trying to solve the problem should tell us.
Number 5. Believe the millions. In this 2012 Hard Talk BBC interview, which, let's give credit to its lived-up title, President Kagame is again inquired on his reputation among the words of the former RDF soldiers gone rogue. What instantly starts as an argument between the president and the journalist ends with a concise answer to reflect on.
And try to stop those who are perpetrating the violence. People who know you well and who now say, poor Kagame, he's autocratic, he's... I mean, can I give you some names, for instance?
Zainab, you can give names, but...
Yeah, well, can I just say what it is, though? I'm talking about the Rwandan briefing.
I have heard this before, because you're going to tell me 10, 12, even if it is 20 names, and I'm talking about millions of Rwandans. So if you want to believe what 10, 15 people are talking about, and you don't believe what millions of Rwandans are saying, that's where the problem is.
Number 4. The UN is failing. As if it's not enough, President Kagame has to answer another question about his involvement in the DRC situations as they ask him if there are any Rwandan troops in the neighboring country. His words spoke to many as he brought about the question, is the UN really helping?
It's an understatement to say it's a failure.
UN experts are saying that Rwandan troops are already intervening in the DRC and already conducting operations. Is that an example?
Yeah, but I wish they could go beyond that and ask themselves, meaning the UN, why would Rwanda have to go to Congo at all when they are the ones responsible for the situation?
But does that mean that you're acknowledging that Rwandan troops are in the DRC?
No, I'm acknowledging that the UN making that report is actually a failure in the Congo. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, total failure.
Number 3. I cannot be blamed for the problems of Congo.
Have been killed.
Do you know the history of Congo?
Yes.
The problems of Congo are more than 60 years old.
That's true. That's true.
Let's not.
But this started in 1998.
No, the problem started before I was born.
In this exclusive CNN interview, President Kagame responds to a journalist about him being the reason why there are problems in DRC. The comeback is not entirely a glamorous one, but rather a real and sufficient one.
When will those troops... I mean, clearly you have a reason for doing it. Some people say that it's a reason, also an economic reason, that you have a good, hold on an area which is very rich in minerals, which is very beneficial to Rwanda.
But you see, first of all, where the Congo is. I cannot be blamed for the problems of Congo or any other country. There are people, the Congolese who have their own country, who are supposed to manage it, who are supposed to govern it. It has nothing to do with me.
Number 2, you don't need to worry about anything. In this thrilling interview with CNN, President Kagame delivers one comeback that Rwandans, wherever they were, jumped with cheers. While ignoring all the achievements Rwanda has achieved, the president, who was virtually connected, argued the much-needed visit to Rwanda by these countries to see for themselves of the frivolities they judge upon. And when asked this,
will you step down in 2017?
Well,
again, don't worry about that. We have a constitution in place. We have always tried to do our best to satisfy the needs of our people and the expectations of our people. So I think, why do people create doubts about whether to come 2017, this or that is going to happen? What is the basis?
Is that a yes?
No, it is a broad answer to say you don't need to worry about anything.
Before we jump to the first sport on our list, let's first give a special bonus delivered by President Kagame to other African leaders.
For me, when I'm watching on television and I find our leaders who should have been working together all along to address these problems that commonly affect their countries, wait until they are invited to go to Europe to sit there and just, it's like they are made to sit down and address their problems. Why does anybody wait for that? What image does it even give about us, about Africa? In fact, the image it gives is that we are not there to even address these problems. We are there for a photo opportunity. We are happy to sit there in Paris with the President of France and address and just talk about addressing problems. It doesn't make sense that our leaders cannot get themselves together to address problems affecting our people. It doesn't make sense.
Now, comeback number 1. Who are you? While in a recent interview with France 24, questions are raised about human rights violations in Africa, to which President Kagame openly gives the journalist a full-on lesson about their superiority complex. This interview got a full A+ Twitter experience since he was on each Rwandan's timeline, and hence our first choice.
It's nonsense about human rights. You think you are the only ones who respect human rights, or others it's about violating human rights. No, we've fought for human rights and freedoms of our people much better and more than anyone, including you people who keep talking about this nonsense. Where we have taken our country from and where it is now speaks for itself. When we respect the things we respect in our countries, it's not for you, it's not for anybody else, it's for ourselves.
Is it not
So
a universal
you don't sit
right?
there, yes, it is universal, but you don't sit there. If it is universal and you believe it, then you don't become the judge yourself. You don't start telling the others what to do, what they should not to do, or that what they are doing is not to your satisfaction. Who are you?
Well, I'm not sure if we're talking about me personally.
Well, you are the one actually raising these questions. So I think you better interpret it properly so that it is well understood.
Okay.
I could see you asking questions in a manner that you want to influence the ones listening.
That's it for today, folks. If there are any other blast moments of President Kagame that gave people chills, do let us know down in the comments. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon.